Welcome to Rock Bottom Wellness, your one-stop shop for the lowdown on root cause nutrition. If you think you've tried everything to get your health and life back on track, think again. With your host, board-certified nutritionist and thyroid expert, Tiffany Flayton.
Hey there, this is Tiffany from the Rock Bottom Wellness podcast. I'm sure you've heard me discuss my book, but now I wanted to give you a little bit more information. This book is called The Rock Bottom Thyroid Treatment, the 8-week thyroid diet for people with normal thyroid tests to thrive, not just survive. I take you through my journey and how I was able to thrive after a thyroid cancer diagnosis. From there, I take you through the exact steps it took me to be able to feel better. The biggest difference for people who read this book is that it took me years to recover because I was figuring out the steps along the way. You don't have to do that. Unknowingly, I was creating a program that would be helping my future clients thrive after their diagnosis of a thyroid condition, or even for people who think they have one but just haven't been diagnosed yet. This program includes 3 phases that are methodical and specific for overcoming so many symptoms and obstacles when you feel overwhelmed with fatigue, depression and anxiety, and hopelessness. I spell it all out for you in this book. Don't waste years trying to figure it out all by yourself. You can get your own copy from Amazon, Kindle, or Barnes & Noble. Share with others so that they can help themselves too. Thanks for listening. Welcome to another episode of Rock Bottom Wellness. I'm your host, Tiffany Flayton. Today's guest is Jacqueline Phillips, and she's written a new book called Comfortably Uncomfortable, The Road to Happiness Isn't Always Paved. It is a raw, unbridled account of who she was just 2 years ago and the remarkably uncomfortable journey she embarked on to find peace, joy, and comfort in the life she lives today. It dives deep into the feelings of stress and isolation she felt trapped under day in and day out, but it also shows how she broke free and reinvented herself from the top down. The book is divided into 3 parts that will give you an easy-to-follow frame of reference and can help you tackle your own unsolved crises. Jacqueline's journey will resonate with everyone who's felt burned out, unfulfilled, and overburdened by a life that somehow did not turn out the way they'd planned it to. Her story is a striking and uplifting beacon, hope of resilience, of survival, and challenges the reader to ask the most delicate and revealing question of all. What if I am good enough? Welcome to the show, Jacqueline. I'm so glad you're here to talk about your new book, Comfortably Uncomfortable, The Road to Happiness Isn't Always Paved. Can't wait to dive into what this is all about. Why don't you tell us a little bit, and I know this will flow as we start talking about it, but tell us a little bit about how you came into deciding you needed to write this book.
So the decision to write the book was an organic one. Basically, I had spent 4 years investing all of this time and energy and effort and money, a lot of money, into my own personal wellness and development and growth, and finally just breaking out of that shell of misery. And knowing that I was able to come out the other side, I thought it would be a disservice not to share the work that I had done for people that either were super overwhelmed and didn't know where to start, or were completely lost and thought there's no way out of this hole, but there actually is. Right. And so the whole purpose behind it was just to share what I had learned, what worked for me, what didn't work for me, my perseverance in the journey, because it looks easy on paper, but it's really not.
Yeah.
So being very vulnerable and sharing all that with people so that, I'm not a celebrity. I'm not some guru. I don't have unlimited funds or a team that manages me. I'm doing this all on my own. And to be able to take that and say, if I can do it, anybody can do it. Here's my way of doing it. Maybe it'll help you. That's the whole purpose behind the book.
Right.
It's just to help other people.
Message of hope, and that there are options or things that you can do. That's kind of why I wrote my book too. I wanted to shortcut people's health journey because I spent 10 plus years trying to figure stuff out, and I wanted to give them a platform to be able to spring from, I guess, in order to start their own journey. So when did you realize you had hit rock bottom?
So it was 5 years ago now. Basically, my husband wanted a divorce. I had put my entire life savings into a business that I wasn't sure I was going to be able to maintain. My health was garbage, and I wanted to commit suicide.
Okay.
I felt that I was not providing any light in this world, and that because I was hurting so bad and I didn't see a way out of my pain, that was the alternative. Fortunately, I got as far as the setup, but not the completion. And I was able to, start to work back so that I wasn't at that bottom anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really powerful for people to hear, because especially I feel like, if you're listening to this in real time, I guess, in April of 2021 is when we're recording this, there's a lot of mental health, things going on with how our world has been over the last year. And there's a lot of, things happening with people with, suicidal ideation that's increased so much with everything that's been going on. So it's really important to hear that you went so far with that, but you came out on the other side. You made a different choice.
I think I was very fortunate in that we weren't in the current climate that we were, just because I did have access to resources. A lot of people, whether it's financial or, stationary, they don't have those resources. That's actually something that I will post a lot about on my social media, is resources that are free and easily accessible. Suicide is very scary in that it's on the outside. No one really knows. People knew I was hurting, but they didn't know how bad it was.
Yeah.
And there really wasn't anything anybody could do. In that moment, I had to do it myself, because I'm the only one that knew just how ugly it was. There are resources. So for anyone that is listening, please know that you're not limited. There are free resources out there. There are help out there, and they are accessible regardless of your financial position or, your mobility. They can come to you in that moment. You can text if you're anxious calling. You can call if you can't text. There are resources. Do not stop fighting.
Yes. Thank you.
Sorry.
No, it's emotional. And I appreciate you even being willing to talk about it, because it's got to be so difficult to talk about this and be so, upfront with everybody with it.
I don't want to be known as the sad chick, but the fact that I've been there and I've gotten through it, and I know that I wish someone had told me to keep fighting.
Yeah.
I had the wherewithal to keep fighting. Not everybody does.
Right.
So just to hear someone say, don't stop fighting, get through that minute, get through the next 5 minutes, get through that hour.
Right.
If you can break it down into that small moment of, I've just got to get through the next 48 seconds, even, that will save you.
Yes.
But please don't give up.
Well, and I want to talk about all the positive things for sure that you've got to say, obviously coming out on the other side of this. But what you hear so often on, TV shows or in real life, I used to be in education, and unfortunately, this was something that was very common. I would say once or maybe twice a year, our school dealt with someone losing their life to suicide, in the high school. It was the high school level mostly. And what I find, I don't know if it's a way, a coping mechanism for everybody who's still here, trying to figure out how or where it went wrong with this individual, or these individuals. But I always hear, like, I would never have guessed they were so sad, or I would never have, that's a part that baffles me, because I mean, I get it, but at the same time, people who are so, depressed, or, whatever diagnoses people have that maybe get them to that level of suicide ideation, and then potentially following through on it, that is part of the problem, so I don't know. Can you maybe expand on that or enlighten us on that? I don't know what to say about it. Maybe not articulating it well, but it's just a horrible place to be on the other side of it too, when you're with, the people that are left standing, wondering what went wrong.
For most people, I would say that we're really good at hiding our pain, and we're not going to tell you how bad it is. We're not going to show you how bad it is, because we're afraid of it. We're afraid of the repercussions of sharing that fear. Mm-hmm. There's nothing anybody could have done in that moment when I was ready to hang myself that would have stopped me, other than myself.
Right.
It's far more important that you carry the light of that person that you lost than to, berate yourself and think that you didn't do something right.
or that you could have done something different or.
Exactly. There's nothing you could have done differently for that person short of, holding them in a bear hug until they decided they didn't want to do that anymore.
Right.
And in my instance, I waited till I was alone.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want anybody there.
Right.
It's not your fault. Okay. That person was in so much pain that they believed the only way to rid themselves of that pain was to no longer exist.
Right.
That's how bad their pain was. They weren't being selfish. They weren't thinking of others. All I could think about was my son and what I was going to do to him if I went through with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it wasn't because I didn't love him. It was because I thought that my pain was so great and the hurt that I was causing was so immense that it was better that I wasn't there.
Right. Yeah.
It's not anyone's fault.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. I think that's a question people always have, that I hear about with other students in these cases or teachers or other adults. So let me segue to, what was your day-to-day life like then? You talked about some health issues that you had and things too. So, and, going through this disruption in your life with your marriage and that kind of thing. So what was your day-to-day?
It was a miserable existence. I was constantly fighting chronic pain. I have an undiagnosed illness that is causing my connective tissue to break down. So I'm constantly having surgeries and repairs and, I'm constantly in pain. I'm exhausted. I'm doing the mom thing. I'm doing the mom thing right now. We're podcasting from my car. Yay, Subaru. Hashtag Subaru. Love your Subaru. I work 2 jobs. I have a teenager. There's not a lot of spare time. I wasn't making time for self-care. So I slept a lot. I was angry all the time. I didn't think people liked me. I didn't like me. So it was just this cycle of pain and misery. And then because I didn't like myself or, the people that I was engaging with, because I wasn't giving them an accurate representation of myself, it was just an unhappy existence. So, constantly just being down in the dumps, and it's exhausting to kind of just keep that weight on you with no relief.
To keep on keeping on, fake it till you make it. It's exhausting.
Yeah. And I was faking it in the worst possible way because I was faking it to everyone as a cover because I didn't think I was worthwhile.
Right.
Even though there's a really great person in there, I just couldn't get to her because I wasn't willing to.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So when did you know it was time to make a change and how did you get there?
My rock bottom was my moment of ready for change. It was either I have to go through with this and just not exist, or I have to fix this because this is not living. This isn't a sustainable life. And I knew that my son was starting to develop habits that were mimicking the lifestyle that I was living, and I didn't want that for him. I had this cycle of self-abuse that I really needed to break because I saw him adapting some of those behaviors and those traits, and that was the last thing that I wanted for him.
Right. I mean, our kids are, he saved your life.
He did.
Yeah.
He did, and he still does.
Yeah.
He is my greatest cheerleader and my greatest inspiration in life.
Yeah.
And, I can't tell him, I can't burden him with that. I know eventually one day he'll read the book or he'll figure it out.
Right.
And I'm sure he knows to some extent.
For sure. Yeah.
I am very fortunate that I have a great relationship with my child and that he believes I'm magic. And how could I not want to be if he believes that? He's the reason why the book made it into a book is because I told him that I wanted to write a book. And he said, well, of course you can.
Yeah, no big deal.
And then every so often it was, hey, how many words did you write today?
Oh,
you were at the computer for a long time. How many words did you write today, Mom? And then it was this constant evolution. And then he actually did the cover photo for me.
Oh, that's
because
amazing.
I'm a photographer and I knew that I would be my most genuine with him. And that's how I got the genuine cover is I had my inspiration take the picture for me.
That's pretty amazing. Comes full circle, right?
Yeah.
What role did mental health play in the journey down and back up again?
So I struggle with PTSD. I had a very traumatic childhood with a lot of instability. And so there was always a constant perceived threat. I never knew where the next assault was coming from.
Sure.
Not to say that I was being physically assaulted, but, food insecurity and homelessness. And, my mom has mental health issues. So there was this constant fear of threat. so that was the catalyst for all of these maladaptive behaviors, the lying and the manipulating and the constant lowered self-esteem. You know, it just kept manifesting. I was on an antidepressant for 16 years. I can tell you with great success that I've now been off my antidepressant for 9 months.
Great.
I don't take that lightly.
Nope.
It's not something that I did by myself. I went and sought help and had a pharmacist and a doctor and was very controlled circumstances. It's not something you can just jump off of and go, I'm great.
Yeah.
No, there's
not
there's
at
a
all.
lot that goes into it. But knowing that I struggled with mental health, I did access different resources. So I went and got myself a life coach because I'm lazy and I needed somebody to hold me accountable. I had a counselor that I could talk to about the daily stuff. I had a trauma counselor, and we did EMDR therapy where we went back and we reprocessed trauma and we kind of resolved it and put it to bed. And then I also had a dialectical behavioral therapy course that I was taking. And that was great because I had terrible emotional management skills. Since I always perceived everything as a threat, anything that wasn't perfect was a catastrophe. And so dialectical behavioral therapy gave me the opportunity to learn how to manage my emotional conduct in situations so that I was getting the desired outcome without feeling defeated. So I went full spectrum and went to everyone and everything. And I do understand just how fortunate I am that I had those resources and the financial means to do it. That was another motivation behind the book was, this stuff's expensive. I'm really spoiled in that I had enough money to do it. So I'm never going to say, oh yeah, it was easy. I just did this, this, and this.
Right.
No, there's a lot of money as well as time that got invested into this. But again, it's an investment and you are your greatest return. So if you're living your best life and you're doing all the right things, it's a worthwhile investment. And sometimes, especially with poverty mentality, it's hard to invest in yourself because you don't see a tangible reward.
Right.
But it's critical that you invest in yourself because we only get to do this once. There's no reset on the video game.
Yeah.
So, you have to make it every day count. Even if it's not your best day, you have to make every day count.
It is critical, self-care in whatever that looks like for us in any season of life. It's something that, we really need to understand that investing in that, package of massages or investing in a nutritionist or investing in functional medicine or, like you said, a life coach, whatever it is to get yourself, over the hump. Or, even better, sometimes you just want a little bit of, normalcy just to feel a little bit better. And then, it kind of snowballs and you can change and it ebbs and flows from there. But that investment is huge. It is so worth it. So, finding the resources, little baby step at a time, if that's what it takes, is well worth. The return is huge. It's really 100%. Huge, and it's so worth it. So I'm glad that you brought that up. And the thing is your history. It's really interesting to me, dealing with a lot of the mental health challenges with the PTSD and you feeling like you're always on attack in whatever way, shape, or form that was for you based on your experiences. I know you've done the work now, but even having the foresight and the stick-to-itiveness and, the capability to be proactive in finding ways to kind of hack your system, your old ways in order to, come out on the other side is pretty amazing. So there's something in people that go through something and hit their rock bottom. It's like, there's no stopping us. We're going to do what it takes. And sometimes the road is really bumpy on the way back up. And sometimes it really sucks and you want to quit and, you're over it and all those things. So like, to your point, it's not like, it's just smooth sailing. It's no big deal. And it's just super easy. I did 3 steps and I was done. It is a process. It is a process. And
there are bad days, don't flip the script. It's not every day is perfect now that I've reached this point.
Right.
Saturday I did a 15-hour work day and I was on my feet for 15 hours and I was miserable. And I went, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
I have to reevaluate. And I had a bad day and I was grouchy and I hated everyone. And I went, this is a sign that I need to make a change.
Yep.
So having self-awareness becomes really important as you're doing this whole process because we start to get in that go mode, go,
Yeah.
go, and don't quit and don't stop. And that's not living,
No.
and bad days happen. Bad mental health days happen, just like a bad hair day happens. You
Yep.
wash it out, you start again the next day. That's what makes it successful, is when you don't let the roadblocks keep you from moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
The water still passes the rocks even though there's a dam.
Yep.
You have to keep pushing forward no matter how hard it is.
Yep.
And I think that's, we talk about in mental health, getting to these points, where you're starting to feel successful, but we don't really put a lot of energy in what happens when you start to have a relapse.
Right.
We have relapse treatment for alcoholism and drug abuse, but mental health is just as critical with this.
Mm-hmm.
And having the fortitude to go, you know what, I'm having a bad day. I'm going to let it breathe, let it be. I'm going to try again tomorrow, is the smartest thing that you can do, is just to accept it, know the limitation of it, and go, it's not my best day. Tomorrow, I'll do it better. I'll do it differently. I'm going to learn from it. And that's where the success comes from.
Right.
It's learning from the bad days, how to keep them from being every day.
Hi, it's Tiffany here. I just wanted to share with you one of my favorite things to take every single day. In fact, I'm sure you've either heard of it, wondered about it, and maybe even consumed it. People ask me all the time what they should take for skin health, achy joints, and how to maintain bone integrity. I like to get a lot of bang for the buck, so I always recommend collagen as a great place to start. The one I recommend and use is called Whole Body Collagen. Whole Body Collagen contains a unique blend of 3 patented collagen peptides supported by clinical research, showing their efficacy for supporting collagen production, bone strength, joint health, and integrity, skin elasticity, and more. Collagen is a special type of protein that accounts for as much as 30% of the body's total protein. It is a primary structural component of connective tissues. The amino acid composition of dietary collagens are very similar to those in human collagens, making dietary collagen peptides ideal for supporting normal body collagen turnover and renewal. Whole body collagen can be incorporated into shakes, smoothies, and other foods and beverages, making it a convenient way to ensure appropriate intake of collagen's unique amino acids. Every single day, I put 1 scoop of this collagen into my coffee, tea, smoothie, or even water. It incorporates perfectly and you won't taste a thing. I put this product on auto ship so I won't miss a scoop. I've seen and felt a difference with the texture of my skin as well as in my joints when doing more intense exercises. The link to purchase this product is in the show notes. And after you create an account, add it to your cart and use the code ROCK10 at checkout to save. I think one of the things we do, going back to your example of you're really busy 15-hour day, you're on your feet all day, you're miserable, and all those things, I think what we do oftentimes is we keep choosing those kind of hectic, frantic, busy days because it helps us sort of avoid what's maybe bothering us. And we keep going in that, vicious cycle of behaviors, but we think we're doing great and we're persevering and doing all these things. So, at some point you have to have this awareness and change the, your example was, okay, I got to do something different. I've got to change, this is not worth it or whatever, so what would you speak to with that? What do you think?
You are so 100,000,000% correct. I, for the longest time, would use busy as a cover.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say, oh, well, I stay busy so I don't have to think about all the bad things. Well, the problem was I was still thinking about all the bad things.
Right.
I just made myself so busy that I was also miserable on top of it.
Right.
Being busy is a mask.
Yes.
It masks your ability to resolve things because you're not moving forward if you're just keeping yourself in, the little wheel that goes round and round.
Right.
Busy is just a cover, but it doesn't provide you any benefit. I mean, what's the point of having all that money in the bank account if you're miserable? You can't do anything beneficial if you're not happy.
Exactly.
Money doesn't buy happiness. So, being busy and blocking out things that give you the opportunity for growth, you're just harming yourself more than helping yourself.
Yeah, 100%. What was your top priority in beginning a change for the better? I mean, I'm sure if you we both have rock bottom stories, different, same but different kind of things. And I know my priority was, and I didn't even really know what it was. I needed to feel normal, quote unquote normal. And because that was better than how I was feeling. What was your priority? How did you decide? Because there's like a million things when you're feeling that low and that rock bottom, right? So what did you do, or what was your priority?
Well, my why is my kid.
Yeah.
Like when I was hitting rock bottom, he was 10 and he was about to turn 10. And like in retrospect going, oh my gosh, I just wasted a decade of this kid's life being miserable and unhappy and hurting others and hurting myself and really just kind of being a piece of garbage person. I've got 8 years left before he leaves me and becomes an adult on his own. And what kind of example am I setting for him if this is the life that I'm living?
Right.
Like I want better for him. So I have to be a better example so that he doesn't follow in my footsteps and doesn't repeat the same mistakes. I mean, they're sponges. Kids are absolute sponges. You know, he was really developing a lot of my personality traits that were really toxic. And, you know, it's really hard to unlearn those behaviors as an adult. It's even harder to unlearn them in real time as your kid is picking them up.
Right.
So, you know, I had a lot of conversations with him during my journey, you know, obviously scaling him down to be age appropriate and, you know, so that it doesn't affect him, but so that he's aware, like, ooh, I need to quit saying sorry if I'm not actually sorry. It doesn't make things better. It actually devalues the word. Or, you know, I need to do a better job being a friend because this is what I would want a friend to do. So, you know, teaching him better mental health while I was going through it, he's the greatest motivation. I mean, yes, at the end of the day, I'm the most important thing because I need to operate at 100%. But, you know, him in real time watching my change and my growth, I hope that it inspires him to make good choices.
Right. Yeah. And so it's if you can't even find your own worth to make different, you know, make changes for, you can find it in your child or your spouse or some other person, you know, just to get you over the hump a little bit. And for you, obviously, your son, which was, you know, he sounds like an amazing kid. So,
I'm spoiled.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nice when we can look and think about how spoiled we are with having amazing kids. So what about your family? What about your, you know, outside of your child? How did they play a role in all this change you were going through? Because sometimes our closest people to us, you know, can make the challenge even more, you know? So,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So in the book, I actually give the letters that I gave to both my parents when I formally cut ties with them.
Wow.
You know, my parents were very, very young and had lots of maladaptive isms that they brought into their child rearing. You know, I was raised with a lot of fear because they didn't want me to end up like them, but they didn't know how to do that without just, you know, the constant assault.
Right.
Whether it be verbal, physical, emotional. So, you know, I had to cut ties with anybody that wasn't going to serve the purpose of me getting better.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sorted down to like one family member. I have my grandmother. She's an amazing person. And I have my husband. And I've got, you know, a couple of really close friends that I can call in times of crisis who really know the full story. But I lost a lot of people through this process. And, you know, some of it was good. Some of it was ugly. Some of it was hard. You know, the people that have stuck through, honestly, they were going to stick through no matter what, but I'm glad that they get me this way than the person that I used to be.
Right.
You know, cutting familial ties is really hard because there's a lot of obligation that we put on and there's a lot of, you know, stigma. Well, how do you live your life without your parents? Well,
Right.
They were a big contributing factor to my mental health decline, and the toxicity in the relationship wasn't serving a good purpose in my rebuild. So for my health, I had to. And, you know, I haven't really spoken to my dad since the book came out. Not really worried about it. My mom got a hold of it, read it, told me what she thought of it. And it absolutely 100% confirmed that I made the right decision. So it was the nail in the coffin, but at the same time, it validated every single thing I needed to know. And it was really a blessing.
Right. You know, one of the things that I deal with the people that I work with is dealing with the extraneous things in their life that create a toxic environment. And so many of the times, we assume we're talking about toxic chemicals and toxic food and toxic skincare and cleaners and that kind of stuff. But a lot of times it's our relationships. And the hardest part about your situation, and I'm sure other people have had similar situations, when it's your parents, to cut out, that you consider your relationship with them to be toxic and actually detrimental to your well-being, that's got to be hard. That's got to be a hard change to make. And again, really focused on your self-care and, valuing what you need out of life to be the best you that you can be. I mean, that's a huge step. And not everybody is able to do that. So I really commend you for being able to, it's unfortunate, but, for now, that's how it has to be, it sounds like.
Yeah, I don't see myself going back to it. Mm-hmm. And that was the thing is, with my dad, it was a very quick process just because there was, spatial distance between us. Mm-hmm. For the longest time, I lived like 15 minutes from my mom. And it was this ongoing, 7-year process to slowly extricate her from my life. Mm-hmm. And, because of who she is, it was really scary at times. Yeah. And to be an adult and still be afraid of your parent, that right there was a red flag that this is not a healthy relationship. Yeah. So, it's hard. And it wasn't always, stepping forward. It would be one step forward, 2 steps back. Right. And, there would be a relapse into it, or I would feel really guilty because, I pushed into having a kid early because I wanted her to be a grandparent. And I started to realize all the things that I did for my life, massive life choices that I made to benefit her, not because it was the right move for me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, all of these red flags that I was so good at ignoring, they just kept smacking me in the face the mm-hmm. healthier I got. And it was you just kind of have to do this. Yeah. And, some people look at me like I'm a monster because, it's your mom. She gave birth to you. And yeah, but at the end of the day, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles came from toxic sludge, but they eventually left ooze. You have to put yourself first, even when it's ugly and when it's hard and when it's scary. You have to put yourself first. Yeah, and people don't know where you came from, know your perspective. They don't really know and understand the depths of that. It's not fair to judge. We're ingrained into making snap judgments. Mm-hmm. But until you know the backstory and all the things that happened, it's just not your place. And it doesn't help my relationship with that person either. Yeah. Interesting. That's the huge part. I mean, I think day to day people could sit and look at, just relationships. It doesn't even have to be with their parents or family members, just in their friendships. And so I encourage people to look at that and see how people are contributing or taking away, from your life and your goals. And, it's kind of a big thing to assess, something we need to, think about day to day. So I'm glad you brought that up. And that leads to, another question about relationship with your husband. You said in the book how, going through this process and communicating with your husband was a big impact about, how you're moving through this process. So how could you explain that to us or expand on that for us? So part of it was just getting comfortable having really uncomfortable conversations. Mm-hmm. For the longest time, I would shy away from things or I would keep things to myself, and I was building all of this resentment, and I was just a miserable person because I didn't want to acknowledge the fact that I wasn't happy. Mm-hmm. And by not acknowledging it, I'm just building this constant resentment where this person who absolutely loves me, I can't stand their face because I'm not willing to tell them, hey, you're doing this thing that really upsets me. Right. Because at the time I knew that I was not a very good person. And I thought, well, he's putting up with me. He tolerates me. I should just shut up and deal with it. Right. That's so not healthy. Mm-hmm. It's so not healthy. If you're pouring from an empty cup, there's nothing there. You right. have to be able to fill each other's cup. And so, as I'm going through this, my biggest fear was that once I got to the other side, that he wasn't going to like me for who I was. Right. Because I had built up this person that, on paper looked amazing and in real life was kind of a drag and really unhappy. And so I was worried that I would find out that I didn't love him once I was done with all this. And if anything, I love him more because he loved me all along.
No matter what.
And I wasn't able to see it. My blinders were so secured. I couldn't see past my own misery. And all along, he saw the potential in me, and he saw that I was worth loving. And now that I love myself and I can have these conversations with him, our relationship is so much better. That's not to say that we're not still figuring things out. Relationships evolve and grow. And, as our son gets older, things are changing and the dynamic is changing. And we're looking at the potential of empty nesting here in a few years and figuring out, who we are. But we keep coming back to, as long as we can talk about things, it's going to be okay.
Right.
We have uncomfortable conversations. And when one or the other of us do something that upsets the other, it's important that we talk about it, because otherwise it'll just keep happening. And then we just hate each other.
Right.
So, what I like to tell people is, your spouse is the one coworker you never get to go away from. And you would tell your coworker if they were upsetting you. You have to tell your spouse if they're upsetting you.
Right.
If something's not functioning, you have to have a team meeting just like you would at work.
Right.
And it's the one job that you don't get to quit unless you choose to.
Hi, it's Tiffany of Rock Bottom Wellness, and I wanted to share something new I have for some of you. I get asked all the time how I am able to practice nutrition. And what I have is called the CNS certification. So it stands for the Certified Nutrition Specialist. And in order to become board certified, and in some cases licensed, depending on where you live, you need to have 1,000 hours of supervised experience in order to sit for that exam. So I founded something called the CNS Virtual Academy. I've been exactly where you are, searching for that person who has the time to support me in order to get the hours I need. So I created this CNS supervision program that I wish I had. If you're looking for a program that will allow you to complete all of your supervision hours online, allowing you to gain the experience you need to succeed in your future practice, this is the program for you. You will gain the knowledge, experience, as well as business skills you need to complete your supervision hours and start a successful nutrition practice once you have earned your certification. You can earn up to 100 hours per month towards your credentialing process. It's all obtained on a virtual platform, and each month you'll be able to access modules that will help you take a deep dive into case studies and to improve your ability to practice nutrition. So why the CNS Virtual Academy? This program is designed to get you prepared and ready to take your nutrition career to the next level. This program will give you guidance, enhance your education, and help you to become qualified to practice nutrition in the most effective and ethical way. You will hone your skills of assessment and consultations, as well as increase your comfort level and competency with looking at nutritional lab assessments. When you complete your hours, you will be prepared and confident in your ability to start working with paying clients right away. If this program sounds like a good fit for you, click on the link in the show notes and you can set up a free call with me to find out how it would work and benefit you.
He wanted to quit, and I don't blame him. And there were times that I wanted to quit, and I don't blame myself. We both had a lot of growing to do. And fortunately, we've had the opportunity to grow together as well as independently. But, if it's not a toxic relationship, it's so worth the effort. It really is. If it's not abusive and it's not toxic, it's worth sticking it out because there's no way I'd want to do this alone. Life is hard, and I've got somebody who stands beside me, and that's invaluable.
Right. Well, I'm glad you clarified that, because I was wondering, I had thought the divorce went through, and
nope.
When you first started talking about that. So there you go. I mean, that's huge. That's huge that you've gone through all that you've gone through, and you're still with him after all of, the stuff that both of you have now gone through. And so that's a good testament to, like you said, unless it's, abusive or, whatever other issues people may be dealing with, it's so worth, pushing through.
I really think it is. there's something to be said about having someone to hold my hand when it's hurting. And there's someone to do this parenting thing with. Because, you know, I know there are single parents out there, and I don't imagine it's at all easy.
Right.
You know, it's so much easier. You know, my husband is at work right now. We're talking in the backseat of my car. But I still know at the end of the day, if something goes down with my kid, I've got somebody beside me to battle it with.
Yeah.
And that's invaluable. So if you can find the means to make it work, life is so much easier with a partner.
Yeah. Make it work. Yes. What was the most uncomfortable or difficult change you had to make?
Learning to love myself because I thought it was hokey and stupid and useless. And I thought it was a bunch of hype words from Instagram, and it's not. It's real, and it makes a huge difference.
Yes.
Because I couldn't love anybody 100% because I didn't love me. How can you have a relationship or a friendship or a partnership with someone if you don't like the person that you are? And, you know, so I use mantras. It was an easy, concrete way to, you know, kind of validate myself on the daily. And it took a few months because, you know, sitting in front of a mirror going, I am beautiful. I am smart. I am strong. Like you see The Rock do it with his daughter who's 2, and it's all, oh,
yeah.
Cute. When you're 37 and doing it, it's not cute. It's like damage control because,
right.
And you know, I'm well into 3 decades and I'm going, I hate this person. How do you love this person? Well, you have to start doing it unconditionally.
Yeah. And they say to do it whether you believe it or not. And then, you know, I get hung up on that. Like, well, what is that going to do then? You know, so you just kept on doing it.
You have to. You know, it's like building biceps. You don't just look at the weights and they show up. Like you have to put in the work.
Right.
And all of this is just putting in a little bit of work every single day.
Yeah. It's
2 minutes in front of the mirror. It's a YouTube playlist of confidence boosting songs. It's, you know, a 3-minute meditation that says you can do anything. You can handle this. You've got this. You're in control. It's all those little practices that build up that over time, you know, it's kind of like getting your COVID vaccine. You know, you get it so you build this immunity. You do this process so that you build up this stored confidence and this stored self-esteem. And it's just available to resource and tap into when you struggle to find it.
right.
You know, I say those things every day, not because I need them every day at this point, but because when I am having a low day, I can tap right back into it and refill that cup.
And it's just automatic at this point, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Just from the practice of it.
I'm 5 years into the practice.
Sure.
You know, it's an everyday thing.
Yeah.
Whether it's 2 minutes or 20 minutes, it's something I do every single day so that I have that built up reserve. Because I'm going to hit a hard day.
Yep.
And I'm going to need something to get me through it that's healthy and beneficial.
Yep.
Instead of going back to old habits and bad habits, I had to rebuild good habits and store those things so that I could come back to them.
For sure. All right. Well, you mentioned Instagram and mental health. There's a connection, especially with younger generations. You know, I'm concerned with the images and, you know, what's considered normal now, I think is not. We all know that everything is, I shouldn't say everything. Most things are pretty fake out there, and we can show people what we want them to see. You know, so how do you tie that in for yourself, social media, mental health, and how that contribute to your process?
I try and avoid social media as much as possible, which is really challenging because I use it in my business. I use it to promote my book. I use it to talk to people. But I had to become keenly aware of when it was starting to affect me. You know, you start to notice physiological changes if you've been scrolling for too long. And that's a good indication that it's time to, you know, step away, turn it off. It's an addictive habit, you know, but there's an algorithm that makes it so that it's addictive and engaging. And, you know, it's a tool to sell things. Ultimately, at the end of the day, social media is not about chatting with your long lost college sweetheart. It's about selling
Not anymore.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's here to sell you the scrunch butt pants that make your butt look good. They're just pants. You know, you put them on a not so nice butt, it's not going to look as nice. You know, it's selling things.
Right.
You know, it's selling self-help. It's selling, well, you know, if you put these hair extensions in, boys are going to think you're hot.
Yeah.
Like it's perpetuating this cycle that you're not enough. You're not good enough. But if you buy these things, you'll be closer to attaining that.
Sure.
That's never going to happen. You know, my son is 14 right now, and everyone has cell phones at this stage. We were really slow to get him a cell phone. He actually didn't get like a smartphone until this year. And he's still not allowed to have social media. And a lot of it is because I don't think it's a necessity. So he does have an Instagram account, but I run it. He's a musician. He's a Boy Scout. He plays, you know, multiple instruments. He sells dog treats. For him, it makes sense to promote.
Right.
But I do it for him.
Yeah.
Because unless, like right now, he's at a cafe across the street, I can look right at him. He's got his cell phone so that he can reach me. If we're together, he doesn't need a cell phone.
Right.
Anything that he can do on my cell phone. So we're really stringent in that because, you know, especially with children, their brains aren't developed enough. They don't know that those yoga pants aren't going to fix your problems. They don't know that filter is not what people really look like. And, you know, especially as a photographer, it's really challenging because people are like, well, on my smartphone, I look like this. Why don't I look like this in your photos? And that's not what you look like. I'm not going to sell you who you're not.
Right.
And, you know, we're instilling body dysmorphia and just adding to mental illness. And the creators of this content, they don't think about those things. It's really dangerous. No one's faces and eyes and lips really look like that in real life. And, you know, when we have these 12 and 13 and 14-year-old kids whose frontal cortexes are not developed to understand that, I am fearful for the kids that are growing up right now who have no idea what they really look like, but what they look like on their cell phone. Yeah. It's terrifying as a parent.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard to keep it in perspective as adults, you know, kids even more so, like you're saying. I mean, it's really hard to, you know, maybe deal with some of your own demons or your own fears and insecurities as adults with the way social media is. So, you know, trying to keep it in perspective and, you know, limiting your use and, you know, all those kinds of things are just really important to do to help, you know, with healing with whatever process you're going through.
Yeah. It's at the end of the day, you sort of have to ask yourself, you know, if this is leaving me feeling bad, why do I keep going back to it? You know, it's an itch that needs to be scratched, but can you scratch that itch with something that's better suited for you?
Right. Yep. Yeah.
You know, we stream our content to the things that we like. We can also stream things to the things that we don't like. And I think that self-awareness, it will not only change the algorithm, but at the same time, it will also leave you feeling more fulfilled. You know, cell phones are wonderful tools. It's amazing that everyone carries a computer in their back pocket, but man is not meant to be connected to device. We are meant to connect to people. And while this is an adjunct to that, it's a big, scary one. And we don't know all the consequences yet.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why there's like 24-hour cell phone challenges where you put your phone away for 24 hours. We need to disconnect.
Yes.
Because we lose a part of ourselves the longer we spend on our phones.
Yes. Yes. And it's hard, when you're working off of your phone a lot, and it's really hard to do that. And what I've been doing lately is, you know, try to just go to my business social media stuff and try to stay off of the personal side of things and just connect with the people I need to connect with, you know, in real time and in real life versus, you know, looking at their Facebook feed or their Instagram feed or whatever. And I think, you know, that does help a lot, just, you know, kind of helping shut the brain off and that kind of thing when you want to, you know, rest and recover. It's really important to do that. Let me just go back to your book, and I just want to, you know, eventually tell everybody where they can find your book. But I want to know, how will your new book help listeners overcome their challenges? What are what are ways that people are going to be able to feel better and go through their issues?
So quite often when you're in your struggle mode, you really kind of feel isolated and alone.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest takeaway I want people to understand is that there's 7 billion of us on this planet. There's no way in the whole wide world you are the only person going through this or have ever gone through this.
Right.
Your struggle is not unique. It's that something that other people have experienced, and that gives you a sounding resource. Knowing that this is temporary. The only thing that's permanent is death.
Mm-hmm.
All of these problems, all of these struggles, if you're willing to put in the work, they will be temporary. And the great thing about the book is it doesn't matter where you pick it up at, where you start from, if you start at the middle, if you start at the end, there's something for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And regardless of where you're at in your journey, something will stick with you. It's kind of like oatmeal. You're going to chew on it for a while, but it's going to sit with you and it's going to sustain you. And as you start to make progress and resolve things and other things pop up, I kind of compare it to soda bubbles. They start to kind of filter up and pop.
Yep.
As those things pop on the surface, you'll be able to better address them.
Yep.
The book itself, it's broken into 3 sections, but honestly, every chapter has something different for whoever is reading the book. And it's not a one and done.
Right.
The great thing about it is it's small. It's a quick read. I'm intimidated by big books.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like big books. They scare me. They seem overwhelming. It's a quick read for that reason. It's small, it packs a punch, and it gets the job done. It's kind of like me because I'm only 5'4".
Me too. Okay, so I'm going to talk about those, or list those 3 parts, and it kind of will summarize that for people. So the first one's clawing out from rock bottom, and with my business called the Rock Bottom Wellness, it totally resonated with me. People know what that means when they said they're at the rock bottom. People get that. So clawing out from rock bottom, taking back my life, and transforming pain into power. So those are the 3 parts. It sounds like it really takes you from the worst of the worst and shows how you transitioned into where you are today, which sounds like you're in an amazing place. You've done all the work. It hasn't been easy. Anything worth, getting to and having isn't, going to be easy typically. So I just really appreciate you being on here to share that. You've been very vulnerable. And I think that's very, very valuable for people to hear that and some of the things that you've mentioned, because this is not uncommon. We're living in this world right now, for a long time where people are really struggling. And so, and everybody it's the same, like I said before, it's the same but different reason. We all maybe have our own struggles, and it's just nice to know that there's hope and that there's something that can be done to feel better.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. And honestly, that's the biggest motivation. I know this isn't going to be like a top 20 bestseller, but if I might be, then it was worth every effort.
Exactly. That's amazing that you have that attitude with it. Just very much, how can I serve? How can I help people? And it's very genuine. Where can listeners buy your book?
Absolutely. So Comfortably Uncomfortable, The Road to Happiness Isn't Always Paved is available on Amazon in print.
Mm-hmm.
You can download it to your Kindle or your e-reader. If you don't mind the sound of my voice, I'll read it to you on audible.com. And all of my inflection and humor and tone are there as well. GrownUpGrowingPains.com is a companion website for the book. I list, my actual providers because they're really awesome like that, and other tools and resources. The Dear Man worksheet from Dialectical Behavioral Therapy. It's got lots of great tools and resources. It tags into my Instagram where I will post a lot of things like that. Honestly, information is power, and I'm here to empower others.
Awesome. I'm going to have all that in the show notes for everybody so they can access that information. It's very important to have that at your fingertips so you feel like you have some resources to access. So thank you so much for sharing that. And again, thanks again for being vulnerable and sharing all of your, all of the things you've been through and all the support for you. So, all right.
I genuinely appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much. I appreciate you and your listeners.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. Take care.
You've been listening to Rock Bottom Wellness. Be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, please leave a rating and review and be sure to share it with your friends. Tune in every Tuesday for more exciting insights and wisdom on root cause nutrition and thyroid health. And be sure to sign up for your free 7-day Fresh Start Healthy Eating Plan at rockbottomwellness.com, or simply click on the link you'll find in the show notes. The information in this podcast is not intended to replace medical advice. Please see your healthcare provider for your specific health concerns. Until next time, eat well, be well.